Hey there, welcome to the fifth episode of Personal Branding for Professionals, where we interview powerful personal brands across the globe to inspire your personal branding journey. When it comes to forming an effective personal brand, there are a lot of elements at play. In the same way that business brands obsess over colors, logos, typography, a strong personal brand requires you to invest in professional headshots and appealing photography. Having a professional headshot is the only way to be taken seriously, no matter your line of work. What if I could get a celebrity photographer to walk you through the importance of corporate headshots for personal branding and also give you a few tips to get it right the very first time? That's exactly what this episode is for. Joining us all the way from Los Angeles is Zusha Goldin. Zusha is a professional headshot and portrait photographer born in the New York City. In 2017, he moved out to Los Angeles and now he specializes in headshot and portrait for models, influencers, and actors, while also handling the commercial and editorial work. Are you ready for this exciting conversation? I sure am, so let's begin. Hey Zusha, it's a pleasure to host you today. And when we talk about personal branding, this is something that doesn't come easily to people's mind. And that's something that I'm going to try to change with this interview today. So, welcome to this video. How are you doing?
Hi, Ketaki. Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing really great. It's a nice night here in Los Angeles. I'm doing great.
So, first of all, before we head into these questions, I really want to talk about your background. Tell us what you have in your background. Is that your website?
Yes. So this is my photography website. I just pulled it up because it's like this is my studio, so I kind of use this as my studio workspace. And yeah, so it's my portraits out there, and I think it's a nice background.
Yeah, I think all of this gets us very excited to dive into the importance of corporate headshots for personal branding. And personally, my experience with photography has been so bad. My family members have always cursed me because I take such bad photographs of important family events. So today, apart from personal branding, I'm also looking at getting some tips from you on how I can do at least a decent photography so that it's not embarrassing to my family members.
Yeah.
So, the very first question that I would like to begin with is talking about your journey. How did you get into photography? Was this something that you realized early on in your life? And how did it all start?
So that's a great question. Um, as far back as I can remember, I have been enamored with cameras. I've always wanted to just do something within the film industry. Always, I've just been obsessed with cameras since I was a little kid. And I'll actually tell you this one story. I was at my brother's wedding in Montreal, Canada. This is like 2006, and I really wanted to take some photos at the wedding. So I like asked my dad if he can get me a little point and shoot camera, and he said yeah, and he got it for me. And then I went around the entire wedding taking photos of the bride and groom and of everybody. And then after the wedding, I came to go look at my portraits that I've taken, and I realized I forgot to insert my SD card. So that's really a really vivid, like outstanding moment that I share because it's 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 a defining moment, I think, because it made me start to take photography a little more seriously since then. Um, and then over the years, I've like always been like filming skits with my friends and always just trying to do stuff within film industry and with cameras.
Yeah, and I remember that you also shared a few of these photos in your LinkedIn profile. I think that was at your sister's wedding, and some of those photos they look like the photo taken by a professional photographer. And you were born, I guess you were 11 years old at that point of time, and those are some really great photos. So this is something that it's a blessing, I would say, that you found your passion for photography at such an early age, because a lot of people, even in the mid of their career, they still struggle with what their interest is or what their passion is. They're still trying to find it. So something that you've been able to explore so early in your life and been able to work on it and make it your career, that's something very commendable.
Thank you. I'm very blessed. Yeah.
Yeah, so and now we'll talk about personal branding journey, how did you realize the importance of personal branding as a photographer?
Well, very simple. When I first started LinkedIn, I would just put my photos out on there with maybe a one sentence description, pretty boring, nothing much. And I was scratching my head. I'm like, why haven't I getting any views? How come no one's engaging with this? And then I realized because it's boring. So you have to, you got to create for yourself a brand.
Yeah.
So that's how I realized the importance of personal branding online and social media.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you have to be able to relate it in a way so that people find that they are getting some value out of it. So every photograph or any post that you do on all these platforms, if you can twist it in a way that would relate to people, it makes it very resonating to everyone. And that way they are ready to engage with your content and be a part of your network as well.
Well said. Exactly.
So, so now we'll talk about what the importance of corporate headshot is in a personal branding journey. So let's talk about platforms like LinkedIn. What do you think is the importance of having a good corporate headshot for a professional?
Yes. So put it this way, people are judgmental. People judge you not based on your looks, but based on how you present yourself.
Right.
And so if you want to be taken as a professional online, you have to show up as a professional online.
Right.
And so one of the most important aspects of personal branding and having an online presence is having high quality portraiture and high quality images, whether it be on your website, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube. Online, you have to have a good quality photos online. And if you present yourself in a way, in an orderly fashion, in a way that you want to be presented, professional yet approachable, that will do so much for your online presence and will make people want to connect with you way faster, building more trust online. And it's definitely one of the most vital and key aspects of personal branding.
Absolutely, and you make a great point over there, because I feel that today people talk about optimizing their online presence, but no one actually talks about what the importance of headshot is in all of this. Even when people talk about optimizing your LinkedIn profile, they hardly talk about having a good photograph. And what I've seen in a lot of profiles is they even have selfies, and that looks very unprofessional. Where when I come to that profile, and I might not even go to that profile if I see it in my suggestions. So that's a very good point, that this has to be something that people give sufficient attention to when they're starting to build their brand. So now there's another doubt that I have, now that we've talked about corporate headshot, and there's something called as a personal branding photo shoot as well. So when someone is trying to build their brand, they might even get a personal branding photo shoot done. So what is the difference between the characteristics that someone would have in a corporate headshot and the characteristic that someone has to look at when they are doing a personal branding photo shoot?
Well, I'm actually of the opinion that your corporate headshot should be personal branding headshot. I think it's two in the same.
Okay.
In the olden, not olden days, but in previous years, you wanted to appear the most formal you can be. You
Right.
wanted to come across and be perceived as extremely professional. Nowadays, especially with the rise of Gen Z, people want the authenticity. People want to see the real you. So you want to show up professional and approachable. You know what you're talking about. You're a leader in your field. Yet at the same time, you're not intimidating, and people can still want to work with you, and you're approachable. And so I think that, and so I think the corporate headshots should be personal branding shoot. It should be it's one and the same. That's my opinion as a photographer. Of course, every photographer and even like social media expert has different opinions.
Right.
That's my opinion
Okay.
because I
So
believe.
yeah, and I would agree with you, because at least for a professional, I think as long as you're able to portray what your field of work is, and as long as you're able to get people to trust you with your headshot, then it should be okay, because that way you are already doing justice to your personal branding journey. And as they say that people want to look into your eye before they can trust you, and that's what we can do with the corporate headshot. So uh, definitely some people have to realize that this is an aspect which is going to define your personal brand for you, and this has to be given enough importance when you are starting to build out your brand and when you're starting to build your online presence on various platforms.
100%.
Yeah. And so the one thing that comes to my mind is you found the why of your personal brand very early in your life. But if someone is getting started on their personal branding journey, what are your tips to help them find the why of their journey?
I would say you have to really just show up at with authenticity. You have to show up as yourself. That is probably the most integral aspect of personal branding. Is it's really authenticity is personal branding because it's personal branding and it's authenticity. It's one and the same. So if you show up and you really talk about your self-doubt, you talk about your failings, you talk about your wins, you talk about your successes, people will love to see and be able to connect and relate to that because at the end of the day, we all want to be able to relate to one another. We all want to connect. And if we can't relate to each other, then there's no connection,
Right.
right? So that's why people will respect you so much when you put yourself out there in an authentic and genuine manner. And and people, so a lot of people they'll be like, oh, I can never build an audience. You know, I'm not entertaining enough. I'm not this. I'm not that. But I'm telling you, there is a crowd and an audience for everyone. That's what I've learned. So definitely just showing up with providing value and authenticity, and you'll be a star.
And you might not see the results initially, but I think you have to keep going on, as you said, because as long as you're persistent and as long as you are providing value each day, eventually you'll get where you want to be. And in the end, personal branding is all about sharing our story, and that's what people are most afraid to do. They think that there's nothing unique about their story. They think that their story might not inspire anyone, but what they have to start doing is start sharing their story, start sharing their experiences, and they will be amazed at how many people will be able to get inspired from that, and that might even be an example for others to not give up and continue with their journey.
Exactly. Well said. It's a long process, but a rewarding one.
Absolutely. So, talking about your journey, what are the struggles that you faced throughout your life? Now you're a very renowned photographer, but initially, when you just got started, what are the struggles that you faced with your journey?
Well, I've been very blessed that I don't have the hardest time dealing with rejection. So I can kind of like go up to people, and if I get rejected, I get down and very upset about it, yes, but I don't take it as a personal attack against me. And then I can move on and still be like, okay, I'm still gonna, move on to the next person. I'm gonna persevere. So that's something that I've been really lucky to have. I would say the two things which I struggle with the most even now is imposter syndrome and self-doubt. Because every day I'm just like, yes, I've come so far, and I'm literally dreaming. I'm literally on the journey of living my dream life, and I have so many blessings. And yeah, I still have such lofty goals and lofty dreams, which I will accomplish. But it takes time. And when we compare ourselves to others, which we shouldn't do, but I guess the human
Yeah,
brain,
it basically
we're,
happens.
it's,
Yeah.
we're still humans at the end of the day. It's kind of hard to not compare yourself to others. And then when I do that, I'm just like, okay, maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe like the self doubt creeps in, and then it's toxic. So those are two things which have been really hard, and I mean I'm still struggling with that, but I'm showing up every day and I'm persevering, and I have these small wins which keep me going, and I'm really thankful for that. So
And I think we, all of us, even if we don't admit it, we are implicitly running this constant battle of imposter syndrome, where we face any rejection, we eventually are ready to be very hard on ourselves and decide that this is not for me, maybe I'm not doing it all right. And at that point of time, as you said, it's very important to remember these small wins so that it keeps you going and so that it does not affect your consistency, because it's very easy these days to look at others and then have the fear of missing out and think that, okay, maybe I'm not doing something right, maybe this is a fault with me, maybe I'll never do something good, maybe I'm not meant to be anyone, and all these thoughts. And it's a chain of thoughts, so once you get into that zone, it's all negative, you cannot see anything positive. But to have the gratitude of where you've come, and all the struggles that you've been a part of to be where you are today, and then to look at your goals, be consistent with it and keep going, without letting that self-doubt govern your actions. I think that that's something that we can learn from you, and that's something that would be a great advice for anyone getting started on their personal branding journey as well. Because when you get started initially, there are so many things that you might get confused, it might be very overwhelming, and you might not even see some progress, you might not get those small wins too. But once you keep going, eventually you'll get where you want to be.
I love what you said. Exactly. Well said. It's definitely a process and a journey. And but then again, life is a journey. So it's a beautiful dance.
Absolutely. And we have to be practical here, because we do end up comparing ourselves with others, right? So we are human and we have to admit that we would do that.
Exactly. Like let's be real. Like everyone's on their high horse and oh, I don't do this. Oh, I do that. Oh, I'm. We're all human beings at the end of the day. We all basically have the same primate uh brains and thought processes. So yes, we all have intrinsic value and we all have complexity. We are still all the same at the end of the day. So you might as well just be honest about it and be authentic, and and it really is about authenticity. Like, I'm really going to be talking about authenticity because I think it's probably the most important thing.
Yeah. At the end of the day, as we said, personal branding is about our story. And if we are trying to be someone that we are not, I'm sure that people will be able to sense that. And they will never be a part of your journey. So we have to be authentic. We have to be able to put ourselves out there and show people what we truly want to stand for. Otherwise, there's no point of doing the personal branding at all.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So I'm going to come back to the corporate headshots that we initially talked about, and I want to understand how what the characteristics of an effective corporate headshot are. What are the things that we should look at when we are judging a photograph, let's say, for it to be an example of a perfect corporate headshot on various platforms?
Well, I would say, and this also uh, goes back into personal branding, having no really distractions in the background is important, and having good lighting and good angles is 100% important, obviously. But if you but you want to appear the most confident, and you want to appear 100% yourself. So in my opinion, it's better to have an image where where your energy and your vibrance is really showing,
Right.
with good quality, than to have an image which is just good quality and then you're not your energy is not really showcased so much. So if you can really have the quality image, but also, and this is on the photographer as well, to really make his subject he's shooting with, or he or she's shooting with, comfortable and really have their energy shine, then you have a win-win for a corporate headshot, corporate personal branding headshot. So I would say good lighting, which is extreme. Photography is lighting, so extremely important. No distractions in the background, because that just takes away from you, and you don't want that. Good angles, which the photographer would help you with, and then really showing up as yourself and with good energies, and being a professional and yet approachable. That's how the entire image. That's what you want to present yourself as.
And I'm going to ask you a very silly question here, but I've heard a lot of photographers talk about this, that you should not smile too much. You should just smile enough for people to not see a lot of your teeth. So what would your take be on that? Because as you said, it's about being authentic, right? So someone might want to smile with all their teeth out. What would your advice be on this? Is that an aspect that has to be considered?
So I think it really varies based on each person that you're shooting. I'm saying from a photographer's perspective. I think it really varies on each. Like for example, before I got my braces, I was really self-conscious about my teeth, and I hated smiling in photos. So no matter what a photographer would try to get me to do, or whatever any personal branding expert said that I had to do, I wouldn't smile in photos. It was just insecurity of mine, and I wouldn't do it. So no matter what really a photographer or a stylist or a makeup artist or what anybody suggests, you really have to discuss this with your subject and the person that you're working with. And sometimes our biggest insecurity is what people find the most beautiful. So it really varies per person. Like there's no one rule,
Yeah.
one size fits all for this. Like so I would say that it really depends. You can have a smirk, show a little teeth, or have a big smile. It depends on what industry you're in. There's many different factors.
Definitely. And as long as you are comfortable in that photo and you're comfortable to put it out on various platforms, I think you should be good. And definitely a photographer will be able to help you. But these, not getting into the specificities, but I still think that as long as people are able to show this conscious effort of being looking professional in that photo, any way that they prefer would be okay, as long as they're comfortable with that pose or
Yeah. I definitely concur.
yeah. So we talk about achievements now. That when we begin our personal branding journey, one essential thing, especially when you begin, you're just one person in your team. You don't have like a huge team who's going to manage your personal branding journey for you. And it all comes down to your shoulders to manage your brand, maintain your brand. And at that point of time, we talk about our achievements so that people can trust us. We talk about what we've achieved so that people can know that we are an expert in whatever we are talking about. So how can someone be vocal about their accomplishments without being conscious about it and without thinking that it's going to be too much for their audience?
Well, I think there is a fine line and even a difference between ego, arrogance, and pride.
Right.
I think you should definitely have pride in your work and your accomplishments, but if it comes to a point where someone's being arrogant about their accomplishments, then I think it's not going to be well received. So I don't. I think that you should definitely talk about your accomplishments, and people will respect it if you are assertive and you know your worth. You know what I mean? But, and the difference between having pride and arrogance is when you have pride in your work and you essentially, I guess, brag, which I think that's actually okay. And you boast about your work. You are saying are highlighting certain great things that you did or happened to you or whatnot. And where arrogance and ego comes into play is where you start basically saying that because of your certain accomplishments, it makes you better than everyone else.
Yeah.
And it makes you're like, yeah, you're the greatest. So you have to find the fine line between the two. And I feel like this also comes back to like analytics, reading your audience, seeing how they receive different things. That's I think whatever you're in marketing or any industry, you should always be analyzing your audience and see how they receive different things and whatnot.
Absolutely.
So you know how to continue.
That's another good point, because what you have to be able to do is when you're putting out your personal brand, you have to be able to analyze the feedback that you're getting on it and tweak your brand, because it's not always going to be the perfect brand that you start with. So you do these small experiments where, based on the feedback and based on the response that you're getting, looking at the analytics, you can tweak your brand, fix some issues that you're having. And as long as you're proud about your achievements and it does not come across as condescending, or you're not trying to prove to people that you are superior to them, it should be okay. But
Exactly.
it's equally important for us to be vocal about our accomplishments, because I've seen a lot of people that they're very hesitant to talk about their achievements. They think that, okay, I'm not going to do this, let my network learn about this on their own. And that's never going to happen, because your network does not have so much time to go and figure out what your achievements are. So unless you talk about it, I don't think they will know it so easily, and your achievements might even inspire them to understand how they can get started. They might even want to talk to you about your journey. They might be interested in your journey because of the achievements that you share, and we definitely should
Exactly.
make it our habit
Exactly.
to do that.
I'll give you an example. A few months ago, I shot with like a popular TikToker, and I've been following this TikTok family for since like last summer, and I became fans of them, and I wanted to meet them, and I wanted to do a shoot with them. It took me a long time until I um, met them, and then shot them, and whatnot. And I posted on my LinkedIn like about it, and I posted about how I tried so hard to, you know, to secure a shoot with them and to, you know, meet them, and my journey with working with them. And on one, it could be perceived as like boastful. On the other hand, I didn't even perceive it as that. I was looking at it as I worked hard for something,
Right.
and here the results that are yield. And my audience, they had the same mindset and they loved it. So it's really just reading the room and knowing the difference and the fine line between being proud and being egotistical.
It comes down to the choice of words here, when you're trying to post, when you're trying to speak about it. You have earned that and you have to be proud about it. But what words you choose to get it out to the universe out there, that makes the difference. And people can easily sense when you're trying to brag about something, or when you're trying to be actually proud of your achievement and just sharing it as an experience.
Yeah, I heard this one statement, this quote. People don't. No one in the world disagrees. We all just have different. We all just understand words differently. We understand the definition of words completely differently. So we don't actually we disagree. We just our definition of this word
Yeah.
and your definition of this word, we just understand it differently.
And that's shaped by the assumptions that we have of the society, that comes back to our experiences, to our upbringing, and to our entire journey that we've had, based on which we interpret those words in a certain way. Now, if I am accustomed to meeting people who always brag about themselves, and if I then happen to read some post on LinkedIn, I might think that that person is boasting, right? Even though that person might not be doing it with that intention, but I might think of it of in that way, because that is the experience that I've had with people. Or it can be anything. But as long as you know what you're doing, as long as you know why you're sharing something, you should be okay, because it's not something that you always have to look at what people have to say. It's about how much you are willing to grow. It's about how much you are able to look back at journey and celebrate these small wins and big wins at times, and then continue with your journey, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. It's
So
about reading the room.
yeah, so for anyone who's getting started to find themselves, what would your advice be? We all are trying to find ourselves constantly, right? And sometimes we're successful, sometimes we have to take a totally different path. So what would your advice be?
It's a great question. So when it comes to your career, I think you have to just dabble in a million different things and find something that that speaks to you. No, not speaks to you, that sings to you. And and try to pursue that. I have friends right now who, you know, they're older than me. They're in their middle to late 20s, and they still don't really know what they want to do, and that's perfectly okay. You know, we're all at different stages in our life, and it's not a competition. And they're still discovering what they want to do with their career. And I would say about finding like yourself as a human and as a person. I believe it's a lifelong journey. I believe that we we finding ourselves is that's one aspect of life, and we are only human beings with a limited capacity to understanding, so
Right.
will never know that much, you know, like even Albert Einstein or all these geniuses, they were still human beings at the end of the day, and they still had a limited amount of capacity that they can comprehend and understand and even ponder. So
Right.
really just have to, so yeah, so really I think that really you just gotta, when it comes to career, experiment, and also in life, travel. Move to new cities, meet new people. Like, I think do your thing. I'm very pro of that.
Absolutely. And it's all about adding these new experiences and shading off the assumptions once in a while by traveling to new places, looking at how people function in different parts of the society, what is it that they are passionate about. And when you meet passionate people, you again get motivated. Now, when I meet you, looking at your passion for photography, that gives me a motivation to find mine. And that gives me motivation to find my journey, find myself, and then continue. And I think
Yeah.
that as human beings are the biggest mystery. There is no bigger mystery than that, because we human beings, we have so much that we don't know about ourselves. But the key is to continue finding ourselves, and as we go, as you said, celebrating small wins and being proud of your journey, being proud of where you've come today and where you've come from. And then also you're having constant goals and having the vision of where you want to go. That's very important, because a lot of times we
Yeah.
have a lot of things in our mind, we don't set goals, we don't envision ourselves as the person that we want to be. And as long as you don't have that, you can never get there. So it's important to have that definition in your mind and just try
Very
to
true.
find yourselves, even if it's bit by bit each day.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Well said.
So thank you so much, Zusha, for your time today. I have personally learned a lot about photography, and this is a very interesting take on personal branding that people don't usually talk about, and it's very important. So I am really very happy to understand all of this from you, and thank you so much for giving us so many tips. And I'm going to link your website and all of your work in the description below, so that people can go have a look. And I have to tell you that all your posts on LinkedIn, they're very inspiring. I enjoy reading them each day.
Appreciate it. Thank you. And thank you so much, Ketaki, for having me. I'm still so glad that like anyone wants to even like have me as a guest on their podcast. So I
Yeah, thank you
appreciate
for
it.
agreeing for this interview, because your entire profile, your journey has been very inspiring to me, and I wanted to share it with our viewers so that they could get inspired. So let Zusha's example be a reminder to all of you that you have to continue finding yourself, and it might not be very easy at first, but you have to continue doing it so that someday you'll be proud of all the decisions you've made till now.
Exactly. Yes, it's a journey. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you liked today's video and found value in it, please make sure to like this video, drop your questions for Zusha, tell us how you liked this episode, and also please subscribe to my channel.